The drama surrounding this moment is not just about a single fight or a clean debut. It is about the birth of a new force, the kind that announces itself not with words, but with pressure, violence, and an unmistakable sense of inevitability. From the opening seconds, it became clear that this was not going to be a cautious introduction to professional kickboxing. This was a statement. Mona stepped forward with intent, carrying the weight of her boxing background while shedding any hesitation about the transition. There was no feeling out process, no tentative probing. The bell rang, and she immediately imposed herself, marching into range with confidence that looked far beyond a debut performance. What stood out instantly was composure. Even as punches and kicks were exchanged at a furious pace, Mona never looked rushed or overwhelmed. Her movement was purposeful, her balance steady, her eyes locked in. She pressed forward again and again, refusing to give ground, refusing to allow her opponent to settle. The rhythm of the fight was dictated by her presence. 1-2 combinations snapped out sharply, not thrown wildly but placed with intent, forcing reactions and opening lanes. Each step forward carried threat, and each exchange chipped away at the illusion that this was an inexperienced fighter learning on the job. As the round unfolded, the striking variety became impossible to ignore. The punches landed clean, sharp, and authoritative, but it was the integration of kicks that elevated the performance. Front kicks shot straight down the center, stabbing into space with perfect timing, disrupting balance and vision. Low kicks followed, biting into the legs and forcing adjustments. These were not flashy techniques thrown for show. They were tools, deployed with precision to control distance and rhythm. The opponent tried to answer back, tried to push forward with her own offense, but every attempt was met with resistance, counters, and relentless forward pressure. What made the performance truly impressive was how natural everything looked. There was no visible tension, no stiffness, no sign of a fighter forcing techniques learned too recently. Mona's strikes flowed from a relaxed state, snapping at the last moment with speed and power. This ability to stay loose while delivering fight-ending shots is something many fighters spend entire careers chasing. Here, it was on display in a debut. The punches carried weight, not just because of raw strength, but because of timing. When they landed at moments when the opponent was least prepared. When her guard was lifting, when her posture was compromised. As the exchanges grew more intense, the opponent's face began to show the toll. The pressure was constant. Every time she tried to reset, Mona was there. Every time she tried to plant her feet, a kick disrupted her base. Blood appeared, a visible sign of how quickly control had shifted. Yet even then, Mona did not rush recklessly. She stayed disciplined, mixing body shots with head strikes, understanding that damage accumulates fastest when a fighter is forced to defend multiple levels at once. The front kick, in particular, became a defining weapon. It snapped out again and again, sharp and direct, forcing space to collapse on Mona's terms. It was not just an offensive tool, but a psychological one. Each time it landed, it reminded the opponent that stepping in came at a cost. Each time it missed, it still forced a reaction, a hesitation, a pause that Mona used to step forward and take ground. This control of tempo is rare, especially in a first professional appearance. Observers could not help but note how complete the performance looked. This did not resemble a fighter experimenting or finding her way. It looked like someone who belonged exactly where she was. The combination of boxing fundamentals and kickboxing adaptation created a style that was both aggressive and intelligent. There was risk, yes, but it was calculated risk, the kind taken by fighters who trust their instincts and preparation. As the fight moved deeper into the round, there was no sign of slowing. The pace remained high, the pressure unbroken. Mona continued to push forward, throwing combinations, stepping through exchanges, and forcing the action. Even when the opponent attempted to counter, the responses were immediate. Counters were met with counters. Forward movement was met with strikes down the middle. The message was clear. This ring belonged to her. The most striking aspect of the performance was how complete it felt. There were no obvious gaps, no moments of panic, no lapses in awareness. The kicks were timed beautifully, the punches crisp and accurate. When opportunities appeared, she took them. When restraint was needed, she showed it. This balance between aggression and control is what separates promising prospects from future stars. And it was on full display. By the time the sequence reached its climax, the narrative had already been written. This was not just a win, it was a declaration. Mona had stepped into a new discipline and made it look like home. The violence was clean, the execution precise, and the intent unmistakable. This was not about surviving a debut, this was about dominating it. Moments like this redefine expectations. They force fans, analysts, and opponents to recalibrate what they think they are watching. This was not a fighter dipping her toes into professional kickboxing. This was the arrival of someone who intends to be great, someone who understands that greatness is taken, not granted. The ring did not overwhelm her. The moment did not intimidate her. Instead, she bent it to her will. As the echoes of that performance settle, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This was only the beginning. If this is the standard being set in a debut, the ceiling is terrifyingly high. The aggression, the technique, the composure, and the willingness to push forward into danger all point toward a future filled with high-stakes fights and unforgettable moments. Now it's time to hear from you. Did this performance exceed your expectations, or did you see this level of dominance coming? Where do you think Mona's ceiling truly is in professional kickboxing, and who would you want to see her face next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep, cinematic breakdowns of rising fighters and unforgettable performances, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.